What is the greatest comeback to insult you've ever heard? Overheard by me. The school bus driver, one fifth-grade student, was belittling a first grader. When it was time for a comeback, first grader shouts out, "Congratulations!" The bewildered fifth grader had nothing to say and went to sit down with her friends in the back of the bus. Context: John Oliver from HBO interviews Stephen Hawking, may he rest in peace. Jo: and there may be a universe where I am more intelligent than you. There may even be a universe where you are funny. Joe Pine interviewing Frank Zappa: Joe, I guess your long hair makes you a woman. FZ: I guess your wooden leg makes you a table. Many years ago, when we were about 18, a friend of mine was arguing with another person. We knew this person was trying to be a badass and intimidate my buddy. He says, "My feet are registered," without missing a beat. My friend replies, "Where health and sanitation?" 40 years later I still crack up at this when it comes to mind. David Letterman: I'm not as dumb as I look. Tina Fey: how could you be? I asked my mother why she always wears makeup despite being in her 40s. She told me she wears makeup so she doesn't look like me. Edit: I was 9. I used to work with this like 70-year-old woman. She was our supervisor, and one day one of the ladies who worked with us told this old lady to kiss my ass, and the old lady replied, "Where do I start? You're so fat your crack goes all the way up your back." A guy makes fun of his bald friend by rubbing his head and saying, "Wow, your head is as smooth as my wife's bottom." The friend also rubs his head and says, "Wow, you're right." Someone yelled out in a Walmart, "I'm not ashamed of who I am." Another voice echoed back, "That's your parents' job." "If you weren't so stupid, what would you be?" asks the husband. The wife replies, without even skipping a beat, "Single." Definitely a great comeback, but not to an insult, more to an annoyance. I was a camp counselor for a few years at a summer camp. One day, my group took a hike to a large rock where we had lunch. My campers were between 8 and 10 years old. This one kid we'll call Jeff keeps poking another kid we'll call Matt in my group to look at this hole in the rock. It's so cool. It's like 6 inches deep, and the other kid is clearly getting annoyed, just trying to eat his lunch. He keeps shoving sticks into the hole and trying to get everybody to look at it. Finally Matt just puts down his sandwich, looks at Jeff, and goes, "I'll be 6 inches deep in your mom later if you don't shut up." I was trying so hard to be stern with this kid for saying something so inappropriate, but I kept cracking up. It was just such a disproportionately ridiculous thing to say coming from a 9-year-old. 18th century British radical politician John Wilkes was told in Parliament by a political opponent, "Sir, I do not know whether you will die on the gallows or of the pox." Wilkes shot back with, "That depends, my lord, on whether I embrace your lordship's principles or your mistress." My grandma got into a fight at the grocery store with a guy who told my 9-year-old brother to move the fuck out of the way. They were going at it and his final words were, "Suck my dick, bitch." She said across the store, "If I could find it, bitch." Edit: not Walmart, even better Aldi. During WW1, Switzerland had a tiny standing army, but they were very skilled marksmen. Wilhelm II of Germany asked what 250k Swiss troops would do if he decided to invade with 500k German troops. The Swiss said, "Shoot twice and go home." On a construction site one afternoon, different trades were working in the same area like silly team sports. The Sparkies always hang with the Sparkies and the Turd Wranglers always hang with the Turd Wranglers, and anytime they're together it turns into a pointless dick measuring contest. Usually not literally. One particularly childish exchange saw two men chopping back and forth. "My dick biggest, blah blah blah." Finally one of them spits out this classic, "I've got girth like a can of corn," and the clapback was unforgettable. "But you've got length like a can of tuna." Everyone busted up. Mr. Girth tried to hide his embarrassment, but was tied up. No comeback. In a room of men laughing uncontrollably. Good times. What are you looking at? I'm still trying to find out. I was the one insulted, but not the one with the comeback. I was out with a coworker and her friends, and my buddy and I were leaving a little too early for her sensibilities. She jokingly got up in my face and said, "Smell that, smells like pussy." A guy playing at the pool table next to us stepped forward and said, "I'm sorry, That must be me, I just ate. It was amazing. Chelsea Handler told Russell Brand. The way you are looking at me makes me want to cover my vagina. He replied, ma'am, if I had a rubber glove, I'd do it for you. Crowd burst into laughter and she even acknowledged, that was good. Quiet guy in my art class got called queer bait. He replied with, if I'm the bait, then you're the catch of the day. I expected a better insult from someone of your upbringing and education. Glenn McGrath, Aussie cricketer, got frustrated with Edo Brands as his every attempt to stump Brands failed. This is what happened next. McGrath, why are you so fat? Brands, because every time I fuck your wife, she gives me a biscuit. Not heard, but read easily. The Spartans reply to Philip II of Macedon. As Philip II of Macedon was conquering Greek city-states left and right, Sparta was left alone. Philip had achieved a crushing victory, and Sparta was relatively weak and without walls. Philip sent a message to the Spartans saying, if I invade Laconia, you will be destroyed, never to rise again. The Spartans replied with one word, if. I've been called worse things by better people. On an Indian roast show, there were two bald twin brothers, and the roaster told them, you two confuse me on a biological level, you two look like testicles, but you are both assholes. I am still waiting for an opportunity to use that. A friend of mine was getting bitched at by these two identical twin girls in a class I had once. He replied with a troubling look on his face and said, if you two are identical, how come only one of you are hot? That dude played the long game as those two girls looked rather perplexed. For the rest of the session fixed me. We should learn from our mistakes, my friend, so that's why you have a younger sister. My grandparents used to bicker. My grandmother generally came out on top, as she was fierier. One time though, she was asking him to do a bunch of stuff, and he muttered, if you'd lose some weight, you could do it yourself. She fixed her gaze on him and glowered, I'm thinking of getting rid of about 200 pounds of useless fat immediately. He replied, you're going to cut off your foot. You sure do talk a lot for never saying anything. Easy, now don't let your brains go to your head. One of my coworkers was cold calling customers, trying to get appointments to drum up business. One of them told him to go fuck his hand, and he responded with, I've got that penciled in for 3. I should be done by 4 if you'd like to come in for an appointment then. The guy laughed his ass off, and ended up coming in for the appointment. I was bullshitting with a couple of buddies, and may have suggested that I banged one of their moms, to which said friend replied, my mom's dead. My mouth bypassed my brain and replied, that explains the dirt. Saw a clip of a stand-up comedian the other day, and he says something along the lines of, the first time I had sex it was terrible. The first time I had sex. And a woman chimes in with, you mean yesterday? Crowd laughs for a while, and while the comedian is waiting for them to calm down you can see the gears turn in his head. Once it gets down to basically a few chuckles, he just says, glad you remember, and the crowd just lost their shit. It was amazing. The classic, you're adopted, at least my parents chose to have me. My grandma asked my cousin, who'd had lots of partners and 2 kids at this point, if she was ever going to get married. Cousin, it's not the same nowadays. We don't buy cars without test driving them first. Grandma, yeah, but they don't let you put 100,000 miles on them either. Point goes to Granny, come on. Stop telling me how to live my life. I don't tell you how to live your life. It's not like I come down to the docks at night, knocking the sailors' cocks out of your mouth. I can't remember the best one I've heard, but I can remember the best comeback I ever did. It is also, in fact, the only good comeback I ever did. I was in 7th grade, and we were in the locker room after gym. People were discussing shoe sizes because this one kid had enormous feet. I don't know if I have small feet, but mine were the smallest. They said, small feet, you know what that means. I didn't mind too much, but one kid crossed the line. He said, don't worry, fella, there's like 10 different ways to make it bigger. So I said, have you tried all 10? Not very impressive, but it shut him up. I work at a hotel. A few years ago this guest got into a spat with our security officer over something, but she wasn't getting whatever she wanted, so she told him he was full of S_____. Our security officer replied immediately, no, I'm not. I took care of that this morning, but thank you for your concern for my good health and regularity. At this time I was about to bust up laughing, so I had to excuse myself to the back office. And as I was leaving I heard him continuing on with this lady, deadpan, but I promise I eat a healthy diet full of fiber. It warms my heart to know you're concerned with me having regular bowel movements. So the next time I'm constipated I know you're thinking of me. It continued on, and all the more he's playing this deadpan and it's making the lady madder and madder. And I'm in the back laughing so hard I'm nearly crying after that spiel was over, though she didn't give us any more problems the rest of the night. Anything I thought of more than an hour after the insult. How appropriate. You fight like a cow at it. Thank you for the gold. Gandhi. After a reporter asked him a question. Reporter: what do you think of Western civilization? Gandhi: I think it would be a good idea. The greatest comeback I witnessed was when Kumail Nanjiani was on Mean Tweets and someone asked, is your dick multiple colors? And he said yes. Every shade of your mom's lipstick. In middle school a boy asked when I was going to grow some boobs, so I asked him when he was donating his. I'm still really proud of that one edit. I didn't expect this to blow up, but I remember this clearly. He was walking out of English, I was walking, and we met at the doorway and were chest to chest, and he looks me in the eye and says, grow some tits. Without missing a beat I replied, dead face, donate yours. Then proceed to proudly walk to my desk with a big smile. Also I did eventually grow some boobs. They are small, but they are nice. It was exchanged between two co-workers a few years back. Basically a slut-shaming gone wrong. Person A had only ever slept with one person, their previous boyfriend. That they were still obsessed with. Person B was the opposite and would bang a different person every week. Person A: I can't believe how many people you've slept with. I don't understand how people can have sex with someone they aren't in love with. Person B: well, your ex-boyfriend seemed to manage it okay. Person A: silence as he dies inside. Edit: yes guys, he had an ex-boyfriend. Person A was a gay man. It's not a typo, it's 2020. I don't care that you broke your elbow. Was out with a friend who was wearing a silly outfit. Someone came up and said, why are you wearing that? It's not Halloween. He replied with, then why don't you take off that hideous mask? In high school, we congregated in our cliques around the benches. One friend is cracking his knuckles and did this fairly often. Another friend saw this and remarked, you pop your hands a lot, you must jerk off a lot. The friend that popped his hands immediately looks at him and calmly says, you pop your jaw a lot, you must suck dick a lot. Weirdly enough no one left. We just all shrugged and took it as a logical explanation. It's been over 20 years and I still think about the logic. Edit: wow, look at those numbers. Thanks internet fam. As for the informative comments about changing clicks to cliques for the sake of the story, I think I'll leave it as is. Winston Churchill. Of course Lady Nancy asked her, Winston, if you were my husband, I'd poison your tea. Churchill: Nancy, if I were your husband, I'd drink it.